many, many lifetimes. But I'm going to tell you my journey, which you may have read about or heard about, but some of you perhaps haven't, and if you have, I hope you'll bear with me and perhaps enjoy it again. I was trained in a very orthodox way at the University of Miami. They didn't even like clinical psychologists. We were all supposed to be experimental psychologists, but a few of us sneaked by anyway, with frowns. But anyway, so I got started in a very orthodox manner, and I did not believe in past lives. I mean, it didn't even enter my mind. And then I moved to California, and that changed everything. Because I was actually in Miami, and I moved to California, but it didn't change it right away. I took a class in hypnosis, and that, you know, it's interesting the way things happen. I was interested in biofeedback, and they didn't have a class in biofeedback at Esalen Institute, but they had one in self-hypnosis. I thought, oh, well, I'll take that instead. So I took it, and then I liked it. We were all laying around on the floor and going into trance and so forth. And so rather timidly, I tried it on a teenage patient. And guess what? My very first patient refused to come out of the trance. I panicked because I was very inexperienced. I just had that one workshop. So anyway, that was a long, long time ago. That was about 1974. And then little by little, I began using it and getting some training here and there. And remember, too, my orientation was just from the moment you're born on. And so I began taking people back to solve their problems, and they would go back to something that happened in their earlier life. And then David Cheek was a very well-known hypnotherapist and obstetrician, and he had been taking people back to their birth experience. And so I thought, okay, and I took people back to their birth experience and found out that that caused some problems like asthma and some other problems. And then one day, somebody flipped back into the intrauterine stage. And I was shocked because, and it still kind of amazes me, how can an embryo and fetus have that kind of consciousness? But we can get beyond that by understanding that there is a spirit that has a lot of intelligence, a lot of consciousness. But I wasn't thinking in those terms in those days. And then somebody came into my office, a man, and you may have read about this in my blog, and he had a sexual problem. And remember, I had been working as a psychologist for many, many years with people, and sometimes they would get results and sometimes they wouldn't, but some problems were tricky and trickier than others. And, you know, we all think that it's our personality and our training that helps people. And so if I had some success, I was very happy about that. But there are many cases I was not able to help. So this guy came in, and he was very suggestible, and I just started using hypnosis, thinking something had happened in his early life, some trauma. And lo and behold, he found himself talking about being a priest, and I thought, gee, I didn't do a very good intake interview. I didn't know that he was 34 years old. I didn't know that this man was a priest. He wasn't a priest then. I thought, well, you know, maybe he dropped away from that. And then he talked about being Italian. And I didn't hear a trace of an Italian accent. Well, make a long story short, he was living in the 17th century. And remember where I was coming from. This blew my mind, and I thought, oh my goodness, he's really wasting his money. And I didn't care about my time.